Happy Thursday from, well, me, of course, and my buddy Bones back there. We're ready to have a chat tonight, guys. Tonight's chat, it's going to be a lot. I'm actually feeling like a lot tonight, so I'm ready to dig in deep on the issues, my friends, and I hope that you're ready to chat with us. Hello, Sissy. Oh, and there's Nikki, too. It's just water, but you'll wish it was more.
Hey, what's going on?
Hola. You know.
You are ready to chat tonight.
Yeah,
A
like
little bit of an
I
adjustment.
was dragging, and now I'm like, okay, let's talk this out. Hi, Brian. Hi, Tammy. Ready to chat. Hello, Chuck.
Ooh, all the usual suspects.
The suspects are here, and I am sure they're ready to chat too. It's been quite the news week. It's been quite the week in general. In Pittsburgh, it's gray, it's like depression gray here. It's like like a black and white photo is as gray as it's been around here. It's terrible.
Yes, Sissy.
Terrible.
I'll just pretend like I'm sipping on some scissor.
What is a Cape Codder? I know not of this beverage, but I mean, I could probably use one actually. It just smells kind of lovely. Gloomy there too. Gosh, man. I was talking to somebody today and he was like, well, why don't you just move to Florida? And I was like, Florida's not really even a place. So no, vodka cranberry. Wasn't there another name for that? Not Shirley Temple. That's like.
No, that's not a Shirley Temple.
Something. I don't know what it is.
Just diving right in tonight, Misty. Just diving right in.
Driving right into my confusion, apparently. So, Nikki.
Yes.
Why don't you get us started? Where are we going today?
I feel like there's like a trifecta, right? There's literally like the dude, Kyle. I'm just gonna call him Kyle. Biff. Dirk.
Chet.
There's Kyle who's playing white guy, victim white guy.
I was gonna say he's not playing white guy, he is a white guy.
This happened to me. This really bad thing that my mom drove me to.
That I wanted to go to. Well, they're saying that the mom didn't drive him, by the way. I'll let you know. I mean, I'll have you know. Because if she knew, well, she said, well, if I would have known, I would have taken him because he's really proud of what he did. So I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Anyway.
And his T-shirt reads, that he's been enamored with police his whole life. He reveres police. So that's his T-shirt. Then you have Hillbilly Bob and family. I could tell when he took the gun from me, he was trying to attack me.
Oh, you've switched trials, just so you know.
Yes. So we're just going to start the story in the middle of you trying to force a man running down the street to talk to you, to answer your questions so that you can make a citizen's arrest. He didn't want to answer your questions, and you could tell that he was going to try to attack you. After you pointed your shotgun at him,
I mean,
well, gosh golly gee whiz.
I know it's shocking, but if somebody is chasing after me in a truck and then they point a gun at me and ask me questions, this might be a shocker, guys. I'm not going to have a conversation with you.
And there's two things, because we know how Hillbilly Bob and Jed, we know how they were driving around in that pickup truck. We can all picture this.
Like it's the General Lee, for the love of God.
Exactly. We can all picture what was coming out of their mouths. Run, fill in the blank, run. Time to catch me a, fill in the blank. For my more fair-skinned friends, run, inward, run. That's a phrase that Billy Bob and Jed like to shout out of their. It's coon catching season. So you gotta picture this. These guys are in fatigues, right? Shotguns, and they look like they're going hunting. And they're driving around, and this dude is literally in like tennis whites. I mean.
Meanwhile, you've got Elmer Fudd driving along behind you. You're going to stop and have a conversation? Yes, he does, Harvey. He does have hair.
Yeah, he's throwing out. And some leopard pants. And a Prince shirt. That looks like a Prince shirt.
Oh, no, that's actually a stuffed leopard and a lab coat. But
okay.
It's been a long couple weeks.
From this perspective, it looks like a little bit of a pirate shirt.
You know, I mean, anything's possible in Misty's basement, I'm just going to say.
So you have, Billy Bob and Jed driving around and insisting. One of the things, and I know but I thought this was really, really important. The prosecutor got him to admit, as an ex-military man or a military man, she's like, well, what are you told to do when someone refuses to answer your questions? Oh, stand down. Oh.
Wow.
And she got him to admit they didn't call the police from their house.
They were already in pursuit.
They called the police 5 minutes before he was shot. And then that was so sad because he was still fighting after he got shot under the arm, and basically he was paralyzed. His arm stopped working, and he was still working with one arm trying to get these guys off of him. And then we have Julius. My heart goes out to you.
Well, wait a minute. Before we go back to Julius, so there's a few things about the Georgia trial that I find to be fascinating. And, it's...
Oh, are we just kicking Kyle out the boat?
I can't with that idiot right now.
Kyle is just...
It's just... that is so absurd to me. And, okay, we can go back to him. Just for a moment, though.
I had a sinus infection this week, you guys, and so that is what you're hearing. It was
and
a
that's
sinus
why
infection.
You had time to catch up with the news.
Basically.
So the Rittenhouse trial is interesting to me because, everyone's like pissing and moaning and complaining about how, he's going to get off. Of course he's going to get off. I mean, they might be able to charge him for having an overdue library fine from the 7th grade, but I doubt it. I'm not sure that he reads. So, but here's the thing. What's super shady and sinister about the Rittenhouse trial, and what has me very, very concerned about it, is that when you look at the fact that they thought they passed a law back in, I believe, 91. For those of you that have been following this, you know what I'm talking about. They passed a law in 1991 because that's when all the gang violence and cop killing and all this stuff was going on. So they passed a law in Wisconsin that said it was a criminal offense for a minor, somebody under the age of 18, to be carrying a short-barreled gun.
Right.
So that's a handgun or a pistol, that's a sawed-off shotgun, that's any of those types of sidearms, firearms that, those people, those people would carry, and left out anything with a long barrel. Now, if you're really concerned about crime, why do you make an exclusion like that? And if you're really concerned about minors committing crimes, again, why do you make an exclusion like that? So here's where the law has done exactly what it was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It has shown up exactly the way it was supposed to show up. And, you know, as a friend of mine he's a lawyer, but I would call him a satirist because he's funny as hell. But as he said, now you have to really be concerned, because we know that the cops in Kenosha weren't too concerned about all of these militiamen, air quotes, wandering around town, right? No one was worried about that. No one saw this baby-faced criminal wandering around with a damn AR-15 style gun. His was a Smith & Wesson, blah, blah, I know. Nobody was concerned about that.
Right.
If he gets off, when he gets off, you do understand that is a rubber stamp. Here you go, peeps. All you got to do in this town, anytime somebody gets out of line, just make sure you've got the long-barreled one.
And the size of the gun, the style of the gun, we know that young people are not supposed to have. Are guns typically associated with Black, brown people?
Oh,
and
no.
You know,
I mean that.
You know, Sissy, because that was just hilarious to me. You want a mistrial because Jesse Jackson is sitting in the audience? You want a mistrial?
We're back to the Aubrey case, by the way.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm sorry. That was just because it wasn't a squirrel. Sissy brought it up. Kyle, dear Kyle, dear Kyle. The whole thing is disgusting because it basically writes the playbook, or I guess it adds another chapter. As a white male, you can insert yourself into any situation that you deem appropriate with just all kind of wet behind the ears, right? You think you belong in that situation, and then you can call
as a minor from another state.
As a minor from another state.
That.
That's exactly my point. You can basically take a dart and you can throw it. Well, you don't see them trying to insert themselves in the Middle East.
They're not joining the military anytime soon.
They're not trying to run over there. So you white male, I can insert myself anywhere I want to. I can go that.
Hi, Robin.
There is a presence there, right? When you show up, not with your conceal and carry, cute little, 45, just kind of tucked in, you might see it. No, you are walking down the street, with this big old gun that everybody can see. There's a presence to that. That means something. That says, I'm either going to invoke a certain experience or presence or demeanor, or I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. What do you want? Good night, baby.
Hello.
Good night, my love. Okay. TTFN. No, all the way, baby. All the way. So,
yes.
You go to another town. You're underage. You have zero frontal lobe because, well, you're a male and you're 18. So you have zero frontal lobe. And you seem to have some kind of permission from your parent, whether she drove you or not, who cares? But you have some kind of permission. And you have some fundage because you can buy a gun. So you have some fundage and you walk around because you're going to protect these people's stores because another Black man was shot by police, and you know what that means. And you're going to take it upon yourself and you're going to go, whether you know what that means or whether you have your interpretation of what that means. Let me clarify that. And you're going to go and protect these stores. And then you're going to kill people and maim someone else and say, well, I was, protecting myself.
Well, had your dumbass stayed at home, you wouldn't have needed protection. And it speaks to the closing argument of the prosecution. You can't claim self-defense when you caused the problem. You were being chased because you murdered somebody. And okay, claim that in case one, self-defense. But then the other two people that you shot, how do you claim self-defense after that?
And the guy that they shot, apparently he's a greasy, gross pedophile who had just gotten out of the mental hospital or wherever he was. But nobody knew that when he got, that's the thing about bringing up someone, and it's like, oh, well, that was a random act of kindness.
Right. I didn't know that I was going to kill a pervy guy, but since I did, don't I get a pass?
Right. And so nobody knew that. Nobody knew that. And you're bringing that up as if to validate this dude
100%.
Coming from another state. And that's the guy that he happened to shoot. Yeah, he happened to shoot an asshole, but nobody knew the dude was an asshole.
And again, vigilante justice can't be good for some people, but not good for others.
Right.
And, if I'm walking down the street with my katanas on my back and I just happen to pull them out and slice and dice somebody and they just happen to be a bad person, P.S., I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail for a long time. Nobody is taking out a legal defense for me ever. Well, Nikki might, but listen, she's got 55 kids. She's going to send me some TV dinners and send me on my way. Listen.
Look,
again,
if you can do it for your masters, I will absolutely do it for your legal fund, Misty.
Thanks, love. Thank you. I feel heartwarmed.
Are you reading what Sissy just posted?
Yes, I read this morning. I was like, I nearly slid right off the toilet. I was so pissed. But this is another place. This is like Brock Turner 2.0. So for those of you that aren't familiar, I'll read it to you here. Sissy said, oh, did you hear about the kid who raped 4 girls in Niagara Falls, Lewiston, actually, New York, and got 8 years probation because the judge thought he was very remorseful and prison wouldn't have been right for him?
I don't know this story. So girls,
yes,
are they underage girls?
Yes, and he was underage at the time of the first one. But it's continued, and his house was the party house. So he took advantage of a young woman and raped her, and then he did it again and again and again. And this has been in litigation for a while, since 2018, I believe. And the parents they've been sued as well and charged with serving
facilitation. Yeah,
to minors. And so, here we are. The judge said something, said what Sissy said, but the judge basically said that, we should just trust him. So 8 years of probation would be better than making him actually do crime. 8 years of probation when you've got all kinds of money and, can do whatever you want with it, clearly. What is his 8 years of probation going to look like?
Well, that's not jail. Probation, we know, is not jail.
He's going to be on the yacht or the pontoon, whatever he's going to be on. I don't know. But at the end of the day, though, again, listen, there are multiple justice systems in this country, period. There is the justice system for everybody else, and there's the justice system for those with money. And I say for everybody else because the only reason why Ding Ding Rittenhouse is in the position that he's in is because the people on the right decided that he would be a perfect poster boy. Ricky Schroeder posted his $2 million bond. There was money coming in left and right and up and down from all of these right-winger civil servants all over the country and from outside of the country. And that's why Kyle Rittenhouse is getting the defense that he's getting. And, oh, they might have paid off the prosecution too, because they've done a shit-ass job. So what I'm saying is that everybody who's sitting out here like, oh, well, you know, he's just a young guy and, you know, he deserves another chance, Kyle Rittenhouse. You need to understand that that is not a chance that even you will get unless you've got $1 billion.
Harmony writes, Murphy warned Belter that his 8 years of probation will be like a sword dangling over your head.
No. Do you know what's like a sword dangling over your head? A sword dangling over your head. It is not sitting at home in your mother and your father's house while the butler Jeeves is bringing you snacks on the bobby. You know, whatever it is. They are of super duper means. And this is what happens when you're of means. So we have to, hi Karen, by the way. We have to be very, very honest and aware of the fact that the multiple justice systems that we have, I don't care. I mean, it sucks even worse if you're a person of color, don't get me wrong. But I don't care if you're as pale as mayonnaise. Unless you've got $1 billion in the bank, you're not going to be able to get a fair trial, not with the way things are. You know why? Because you can't afford it. Nikki, no, it's not your shade.
So I have been listening to NPR, and you know, I know anybody has names, but one of the reporters, she's actually one of the Black reporters, she is doing a piece on Finland and their prison system. 1/3 of the prisons in Finland are what's called open. So they live on site. These people can go to work. They have jobs. They earn a salary. They are given opportunities to go to school. And their job is not like for Les Wexner making bras and panties. They have like actual jobs. So I've been listening to this. It's an ongoing story, and they kind of refer it back to how Finland's government actually works. And, you know, the woman who is like the main person being interviewed, she says, but it is a government's job. She's like, the prison system is not designed by politicians. She said the prison system is designed by people who study. If you're really trying to rehab people, she's like, those are the people that we go to just, you know, to design our prison system. She's like, it's not designed by politicians.
Oh, what a novel approach. It's just like the insurance companies letting the actuaries design your medical care. And so somebody else has a better system. What a shock.
Teachers in Finland are revered much in the way that doctors and attorneys are revered in this country. She said, we don't have private schools. She's like, those are rare and they're for very special cases. And she said, from preschool, every child has a slot in preschool. And so Finland is definitely one of those countries where the government gives you assistance. Every person who has a baby, every family who has a new baby, they are paid to stay home. They are subsidized to stay home. They are offered outside help so that you can have this time with your kids. And then every child is guaranteed a spot in a government-sponsored preschool, all the preschools, all the schools are government sponsored. This is not like, oh, you can choose this or you can choose. All of the schools, the educational process is designed by the government. The taxpayers pay for it. So the government, they use their government to actually use the taxpayer dollars to benefit the taxpayers.
Unbelievable.
And so
poppycock. It's socialism.
Bringing this back, and she said, why? And so this particular woman actually lived a bit in the States, and she said that was unfathomable to her, that someone going through cancer had to rely on the fact that maybe their husband's employer provided them insurance, and not only would the husband's employer have to provide them insurance, but they would have to be on the insurance. And she said, no, she's like, that's our government's job in Finland. She said, she's like, those are basic needs, and they are not based on your social standing or your economic standing.
Right.
She said, those are basic fundamental necessities for every person who's a part of the society. And what Finland is seeing is that each generation of kids that comes, and goes through the education, and of course college is also free, but they are surpassing their parents regardless of where their parents are. They are surpassing because those basic needs are taken care of. And so bringing it back to the prison system, she said something about, she said, she's like, if there's a crime in Finland that involves bodily harm, she's like, it's not with a gun. She's like, our citizens don't have guns. She's like, it'll typically involve a knife. And so she said that's sometimes a little bit more challenging than people think, because you have to be up close and personal, everything that we know about a knife.
Sure.
So she said, all of these things are by design. And, she said, she brought it back to the prison system. She's like, if the goal is truly to rehabilitate someone, to integrate them back into the society, she's like, then you have to keep them on that path.
Well, and they have to stay adjacent to society.
Yes.
Think about it. If you are telling people, and we have a lot more crime here, and we have a lot more violent crime.
For me, we have buddies.
I mean, even in prison, they're more civilized. But, think about it, though. We have a lot more crime here. We have a lot more violent crime here. It would be a lot harder to leverage that kind of system here with just society norms and rules. It would be a lot harder. Now, I'm not saying, though, that some of the lower level criminals couldn't do that. We have a system, however, that once you are labeled as a criminal for whatever reason,
right,
except for if you're Lauren Brobert, who is a freaking lunatic. Have you seen her arrest record? Anyway, yeah, and she's in Congress. It's ridiculous. But anyway, it would be a lot harder to do here, is my point. But the big reason why is because prisons are for profit.
Right.
And you are never going to deny a person their coins and get away with it. You're not going to say, you know what, we're going to change all of these prisons, so everyone is going to get a flat screen and a bunny, and they're going to be able to just, have bunny therapy and then go to work and then eventually reintegrate into society. Mm-hmm. That's not the point of our prisons. Our prisons are not there to rehabilitate or anything. No. It's not even about punishment at this point. I think it's about having a
unadulterated degradation
and a free workforce. Mm-hmm. We got rid of slavery and we needed somebody else. So get these folks to make your bras for 49 cents on the dollar. No stew. Harmony, I can't take you anywhere.
Well, and then the other thing too is, one of the big things in our prisons is the phone company is a private phone company. And we know that when people make phone calls outside of prison, they have to call collect. So that's an entirely, that's a private enterprise. And so not only is the prisoner being punished by default, so is the family. So in order for the family to stay connected with their loved one, because we're not going to pretend like everyone is John Wayne Gacy or who had to with the swastika on his forehead. Yeah, thank you, Charles Manson. They're charging the families to stay connected. So by default, they're also being punished. And they're oftentimes people who really just can't afford exorbitant phone calls because oftentimes you might be in another state. Remember, once you're in another state and you're making a landline phone call, even if you're making it to a cell phone, it's still considered out of state.
Yeah.
All of these things that, because it's a private company, they can literally make these stipulations. And it's just another way to cut off people from their families. And, you know, it's not the intention. Do I think someone like Kyle Rittenhouse would fare well in prison? No, I don't. I don't, for all of the things that we know. He's a big badass when mommy drives him across state lines with his AR, and he can shoot people because he's there to protect people, you know, and then call self-defense.
No, he's there to protect property.
He's there to protect property, but then call self-defense when, you know, he kills two people and maims another. We've got the good old boys jumping out of the truck. You know, I don't know, the good old boys, they might make it, but of course, you know, they got to join the Aryan Nation. We all know how that goes if they're not already a part of the Aryan Nation. The prison system is not made for people to be successful. It's not made for people to take a step back and say, okay, I did a bad, wrong thing. I made a bad choice. You know, let me recollect, reconnect, and move forward. And then the complete opposite of that is someone who can rape 4 girls and be given probation.
Yeah, because when we talk about, go ahead.
He sounds remorseful. He sounded really remorseful.
And again, when we talk about crimes and we talk about value of crimes and we talk about harm done, you know, everybody's super worried about this poor, precious kid who, you know, who's got the sword dangling over his head. What about those 4 girls?
Right.
Does anybody give a damn about the trauma that those 4 girls are going to have to deal with for the rest of their life, and the relationships that they're not going to be able to have, and the way they're going to parent their children, and all of the baggage that's going to go with the sentence that this boy heaped upon all 4 of them, when the judge didn't have the stones to give him the fair sentence? And am I saying he should be shipped off to Supermax? No, I had to think about it for a minute. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that, you know, do we have laws or don't we? Do we say that there is justice and that it's equal justice for all? We say it, but there's a huge portion of the population that says that that's bullshit. And anybody that is in an other category can get away with saying that it's bullshit. And I don't care if you're a woman or you're black or you lost a limb or you have a emotional support squirrel, whatever it is, that's still baggage that you have to carry. You are harmed, and you start at a deficit when the person you're going up against is a wealthy white male, period.
And I don't know if this is a great correlation, but I kind of feel like the conversation around it is. So here you have a judge who is looking at the future of this guy. he sounded remorseful. And you're looking at the, and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I have been ridiculously drunk one time in my life where I was like puking out of my friend's car, and thank God he was a friend, because if he would have wanted to, he could have just done whatever he wanted with me, because that's how sloshed I was. So I'm going to say this Niagara Falls dude, he's a young kid. He's drunk because his parents are providing the alcohol, and this girl is drunk. And I'm making this up, guys. This is not the story. I'm making this up. He's drunk. She's drunk. They get going. Signals get crossed. He forces himself on her one time. And then he apologizes and says, things got out of hand. That's remorse. You don't need to practice remorse 4 times with 4 different people. And that's a pattern.
Well, and considering that that's not even what happened in this particular case, you know, he just threw her down and took over. And then he's like, oh, yeah, no, it's fine. Like, peace.
Right.
You know?
That's a pattern. And it's a pattern. Everyone knows. I loved Law and Order SVU. That is a pattern. That is a serial rapist. And now you've just given him permission to get his groove on, to perfect his pattern.
Oh, left this part out. So during all of the stuff that was happening, and you know, before they came up with the final verdict, he was told not to do certain things as, you know, part of his bond. And one of the things that he was barred from doing was watching porn. And so this kid told the judge flat out, you know, hey, I did watch porn. I watched porn, and I installed something on my computer to make it so that you couldn't tell that I was watching porn. Oh yeah, and I've just gotten some injections from my doctor, you know, to get my libido reduced, because, you know, I've got some things going on. But he still got probation of 8 years when we have an established pattern.
And we obviously have parents who lend themselves to the proclivities of their children.
I mean, they at least lend their
because he's
alcohol.
no longer underage, correct? He's no longer underage.
He's not anymore. No.
Huh.
Yeah. It only applies for
so
some people.
This wasn't even like, oh, you're 15.
No.
And so 8 years brings you into young adulthood, 22, 23.
No, I believe one happened in 2018.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So
no bunnies for him.
So we have a prison system. So right there, these judges are saying to you, prison is not for
certain people.
It's just not for certain people. And we're going to tell you that it's not for certain people, because we're going to sentence them in such a way that clearly says we're doing everything to say that they are not going to jail. And
right.
You know, but you walk down the street and you cross the street in Colorado where you can actually jaywalk, and the right copper comes by and says, no, you can't do that. And you go to jail, and you're black. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't even get out of the car, because we know in some places you have a permit for your gun, you have a conceal and carry, and the cop shoots you in the car in front of your 4-year-old daughter anyway.
Listen, this is something I was just talking to Glenn about before the call. You know, with the dog whistle that's being blown saying, oh, hey, if you're down with supremacist activity, hey, just do whatever, because clearly we're not ever going to get busted for it. You know, what is one supposed to do? What is one supposed to do to protect themselves? I was like, dude, I mean, do you think I'm going to walk around even permitted with a sidearm? Do you think that that's safe for me?
Right. I agree. That is the conversation that I think I want a gun. And I found a really cute Smith & Wesson the other day, but
I think mine's too big for me. As much as I really like it, I gotta get a different one.
What are you carrying, a Desert Eagle?
It's a Colt.
She's like, ugh, ugh.
But it's heavy. I mean, I do maybe need a wheelbarrow for it, but it's super cute. Anyway, but it's big. I mean, it's big. And especially after my wrist surgery, I don't have the same strength in my wrist. Like, it's just, I mean, I haven't shot it in quite a while.
Hold on a minute, bad guy. You wait.
Wait, I'm coming.
You wait right there. Excuse me, sir. Could you help me? No, you just.
Could you get it out of my purse? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I can lift it. I'm just saying the kickback is a little rough for me to control is all.
But meanwhile, the baton does fit nicely in the back pocket. And you
let me have my katanas. I'm fine. I just need two. Yeah, so all I'm saying, though, is, again, with the system being as it is, how are we to have confidence? Well, one, that it'll do a damn thing for us, and two, if we are actually defending ourselves, that we will be judged as people defending ourselves and not, those black and brown people with weapons again.
Right. What are those circumstances? What is that exactly right moment? What is that perfect storm where that could happen and it could be seen as self-defense? And, we had to have this conversation with my son, his coach. My son takes Muay Thai, which is a martial art, elbows, knees, on the back. Awesome movie. But he's going and he's getting more advanced, and he's soon going to start sparring. And it's really kind of cool because it's kind of cool because he kept up with it and he's still doing it. But I mean, essentially he's learning a fighting style, and he's learning a skilled fighting style, which if used, with your brain, it's a skill set. You get a leg up on some people because you're also taught to focus on the aggressor versus just balls out, right? And so he's having all these issues with these kids at school, and he's knocking a kid out. And, his coach had to say to him, look, at some point, you're going to have to pick your battles. He said, because you are going to be able to fight with a level of power that the average person your age isn't coming with.
True.
And he, and it was good and it was awesome. And he heard him, I'm like, that's why I told him, you can listen to me. But he's like, you're essentially being taught
to be a weapon,
how to hurt people. And he said, so you are going to have to pick your battles, and you don't sit there and, do all of this. He's like, you choose your blow to get away, not to do, infinite harm or permanent harm or damage to someone. He's like, but the stuff that you guys are talking about, and it's like, it was just a great conversation because, it's like there is a level of responsibility when you're doing stuff like this. But I absolutely agree. I agree. Can we conceal and carry safely?
No. And Misty said, police taser. Well, it's the same thing. A taser can be a deadly weapon.
Yes.
I mean, the fact is, if someone were to see me drawing a taser, it doesn't matter if it's a taser that I 3D printed, that I bought, that's really just a cardboard cutout of a taser. I'm drawing a weapon. So
that's a cell phone. For us,
How many people have been
how you
murdered
pull
for
your
having their
cell
cell
phone
phones
out.
in their hand?
Yes. Yes. And that's, you know, everyone is like, oh my gosh, conceal and carry. Yeah. But the reality of it is that that's another opportunity for us to be mistaken as predatory.
Yep, it's true. When we would travel growing up, we always took road trips because, I don't know, we just never flew anywhere. But, you know, my dad always had like 4 guns in the car. 4. And I was like, always like, Dad, I mean, isn't this a lot of guns? But it always made me nervous because, and again, I was young, but I knew like some people can have guns and some people can't.
Yeah, you know.
And my dad, I mean, everybody thought my dad was scary. Ask anyone. He wasn't really scary. He was a little bit scary, but I mean, I would be more scared of him doing his karate than scared of him shooting somebody. And it's not that he wasn't a good shot. He was a great shot. But when he did karate, he looked extra scary. He was like Batman when he did karate. He just like suddenly got like really big and like, whoosh, whoosh, like everywhere. So, yeah, it just, the line, as the line continues to separate us, you know, the laws that appeal or protect this group does not or cannot protect the other group. As that list of protections for the other group gets bigger and bigger, it really does reduce the amount of trust and safety that people can feel or believe in the system that is established. It's really getting to be challenging. And when you look at the Aubrey case, that is reinforced. I mean, the facts are facts. If there's one person on this call that would see Bo Duke, Luke Duke, and Zebediah coming at them in a pickup truck, hollering out the window with a Confederate flag on the front,
in fatigues,
and they wouldn't run faster and not slower, and they wouldn't try their damnedest to evade, I would love for you to tell me in the chat what is in your heart and soul that makes you makes you feel safe when you see that kind of thing coming at you. Because I don't care, white, red, black, square, wearing hip huggers, platform shoes, I don't know, gold teeth, no teeth, doesn't matter to me. If I'm seeing a sight like that, I am on the run, and I don't run. You guys know I don't run. Run when chase is my rule. That is chasing. I'm getting the hell out of Dodge.
But they keep saying he was running away from us.
No shit, he was running away from us.
Wait, he was out for a run. And my guess is, in the beginning, he was probably just like, no, I'm on my job. Like, I'm not dealing with Bo and Luke Duke right now. But here's the thing. Oh my gosh. Hey, Kyle. Here's the deal. They felt so empowered to say, I mean, this is with conviction. They were like you tell your child, please stop stomping up the stairs, and they don't stop. Like, we told him to stop. He didn't want to answer our question because you're John Q. Public. You're not the police. You're not the sheriff.
You
He's
are
on a run, and you don't actually have to answer the police. You'll need to go get a little Huey. Huey used to carry around law books, and he would just open it up and be like, blase, skippe, blase. He had sections of law memorized.
She's talking about Huey Newton, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
Who, by the way, does not live next door. They don't have coffee dates. She doesn't really know him personally, and yet she feels this affinity for him.
So, the audacity to stand in front of a court and this is your defense. We told him to stop.
100%.
Okay. I knew he was going to attack me. He pulled the gun away from me.
I shot him because if I didn't, he was going to kill me. Because I chased him down the road in a truck, hanging out the window with my partners in crime. Of course, they will go to prison. You know what? They should, but I'm not. You know what, Chuck? I would love to believe it. I would love to be like, oh, it's a guarantee. It's a wrap. He's good. They're all going to prison. I can't believe that at this point. I mean, I really hope, and based on the evidence, and quite frankly, the straws that the defense is grasping, trying to get it thrown out because there are pastors in the courtroom. Clearly, the defense is not winning here. But and I feel like this judge is not an idiot, and that's the other positive. But again, it's really, really hard to just say, oh, you know what? Let the process do its thing, because the process has
it's very
failed
hard
over and over and over again.
It's New Balance and his little white tennis shorts. But
Murderers, that's right, Chuck.
But it's also, you know, if you, so they felt that he had done, that he was a burglary suspect. Mm-hmm. Burglary is robbing.
It's not a capital crime.
They didn't even say like home invasion, right? We know that home invasion, there becomes, you know, it's intentional. The family is there. Horrible acts of violence, right? They didn't even say home invasion. They said, well, we felt like he was a burglary suspect. But you came out with a shotgun. I mean, the damage that a shotgun does. But you didn't try to shoot him in the leg. You shot to kill.
Well, but that was his fault because he tried to grab the weapon.
Right. And your shotgun was loaded. It wasn't a prop. It wasn't just to scare him. Your shotgun was loaded. Both barrels were loaded because in the middle of your scuffle, you didn't have time to reload. You shot him once under the arm and then you shot him in the chest. These are the circumstances where white men drive down the street and they decide that, oh, we saw you running through an abandoned house. Maybe he was running through an abandoned house. It was under construction, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sorry, who doesn't do that?
I mean, I typically do not run through abandoned houses, but I don't run. And again, you are not law enforcement. If you think this man is committing a crime, you know, even if you want to follow and keep eyes on him, do it.
But it's an abandoned house.
Well, it was under construction.
Can you burglar? It's under construction. But what are you taking?
In little shorts? Nothing. What am I going to do? Put a stack of 2x4s in my britches?
Are you going to grab a sheet of drywall and run down the street?
It's property.
These are the things that are so absurd. But if you saw him and you felt that this was the gentleman that was burglarizing, and I'm sorry, has the burglar been caught?
I don't know.
Has there been any other mention?
Oh, you're right. I don't
think so. Burglar.
I don't think so.
Because if you're a burglar and you know that the wrong guy got caught and shot, you're home free. You're free to keep burglarizing.
Well, I mean, I'm not thinking that it would be a deterrent if the shooters are in jail. But at the same time, I mean, you want to talk about remorse. The guy that made the 911 call, I mean, he was remorseful. He said, I wish I'd never made this call. I mean, it was just property. Like, he felt really, really badly about it. And, you know, Heckle, Jekyll, and Fred Flintstone over there, they seem to think they're still justified. That's what gets me. The statements they make as if they were
Yes.
justified to be.
He didn't stop.
Right.
He kept running. He was running away from us. You're driving in a hillbilly pickup truck with a shotgun, and you're white, and you're telling the black guy with nothing. He's not even in a car. He's out for a run.
And as my friend Karen here says, Hackman 724, the owner of the property says nothing was missing. You took a man's life. Listen, I'm going to say
for nothing.
We all know this had nothing to do with the burglary.
You took a man's life for nothing.
If it had something to do with the burglary, they wouldn't have made a call to the original district attorney and put all of those things into motion at the top of the case. It wouldn't have taken so long to bring them in because you were obstructing so far ahead. If it was really about a burglary, and if you really did make a mistake, and if you really were fearful for your life, you don't hide.
Where is the description of the burglar?
Oh, there was a description. It was a black guy. I'm not kidding. A black guy. Male. Okay, there's like 20 million of them, but let's just pick this one because, it's the shorts. They're super cute. Those shorts are offensive.
So, conceal and carry. No. What can we don't even get to plead our case because a citizen, so again, here's a pattern, right? Here's crazy guy. First we have the killing of Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old. And I'm assuming that most people on here know this. One of our kids does have BB guns. BB guns have an orange tip on them. And that tip is there for the express purpose of the determination that it is not a real firearm. That is a BB gun. Tamir Rice was killed because he had a BB gun.
Well, I don't even think the guy could tell he had the BB gun. I mean, tell it was a BB gun or not. He didn't have eyes on him long enough to tell what he had in his hand. It was 2 seconds.
Yeah.
2 seconds from when he rolled up and when he shot the child.
Yeah. Child, 12 years old.
2 seconds.
And so when you talk about conceal and carry, again, it's like it should be our right. But we are kid can't walk down the street where his grandmother lives with Skittles and a hood. A mall cop, neighborhood watch, can be told stand down and he still moves forward. 2 men in a pickup truck can go after a guy because he fits the description. The description is too vague. We know that facial recognition software it wasn't even designed to recognize shades past a certain color.
Correct.
Look at how that literally morphs brown people into one big blob. Facial recognition software isn't designed to recognize beyond a certain color. So is it sort of like the original, remember laser hair removal at one point? It was really just designed for pale people with darker hair because of the contrast.
Correct.
That was like a thing, right? Well, even the beauty industry was like, oh my God, no. I don't think it had anything to do with color. They were just like, look at all these people. We can't get to do this.
It's very true.
We got to fix that laser.
And again, when you think about it from an AI perspective, with so many things automating, so much depending upon the AI. Listen, guys, how there was something going on with the social media algorithms on Facebook and Instagram last week. People were getting thrown into jail for saying the word sandwich. You know, all kinds of things were going on because the algorithm was reading things and misinterpreting them. So when we look at the proliferation of artificial intelligence and facial recognition, it becomes a really, really big problem if you are in an othered community where they either don't have enough faces of you, or they don't really care to calibrate it toward people of your shade. And at the end of the day, let's be truthful and honest. Who writes the code in the first place? The bias comes from the creator. And we have to be honest about that. Every human being harbors bias, period. And so if we're going to pretend that that's not really a thing, we're going to keep having issues with everything. Because at the end of the day, it's the people that are writing the code that are in charge.
And, you know, you really have to think about that, because there is an intention behind that. Because at this point, once you recognize, okay, so you go and okay, I'm going to put these features in, and these are the shades that I'm going to put in. I'm going to put these features in, and then you go, oh crap, there's an entire swath of the rainbow that this is not calibrated for. Oh well.
Well, and let's make that worse. So from what I've read, a lot of the information came from, you know, where these AI software components were being drawn from and the data was drawn from was the news. So they would basically push all of this news into this supercomputer that was to read it and start building its knowledge base. Well, what do you see in the news about Black and brown people? Hi, Desiree. What do you see?
Hi, Desiree.
Crime. Right. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter, because the computer can't.
It's how it's portrayed. Correct.
So if we already know when we're talking about media that the news is biased, that the imagery is biased, and yet that's what we base the next generation of crime fighting and everything on, then we should know better off the top. But for some reason, some brilliant people thought, oh, well, the computer's just going to figure it out on its own. And this is why Google has a huge department working on this. But even within Google, there have been all kinds of strife, and there has been all kinds of strife and tribulations, because they fired the top people in this particular division because they were being too concerned about diversity and the diversity of the imagery and the bias in the AI, which brings us back to every single conversation we have every single effing week. It's like Groundhog Day.
Right.
What is it going to take? Google and Duolingo, yes, for sure. It's kind of like, well, why don't I know what Black people are thinking? And like, you live in the middle of Beverly Hills in a condo and you don't ever leave it. And all the people that even work for you are not Black. You don't know about what's going on in other communities if you're not injecting yourself into those communities, learning about them, talking to them, rather than sitting on your ivory tower somewhere and judging.
Well, and the other thing too is when you kind of spot diversify, right? Then eventually it all goes back to what it was previously, because it's disingenuous.
Checkbox diversity. That's what I call it.
Yes. And so when you're not looking at, when you look at diversity outside of just the color of someone's skin, when you really start to look at the characteristics. And so I have a friend, and yeah, we're not really friends anymore. It's a long time ago. But she's Ethiopian, and I knew that she was Ethiopian, and people kept just kind of talking about Black people and kind of meshing Black people into one category. And I would say, she's Ethiopian. She's from Africa. And they would be like, and they would just kind of look at me, and I was like, she's Ethiopian. That's completely different. Or my friend who is Nigerian, he's a physiotherapist, he's an amazing, amazing physiotherapist. He's Nigerian, and he has this very European view of the world. He's lived overseas, and I believe he got his education in Switzerland. I always confuse if it's Switzerland or Sweden, but it's this really global. His parents were like, leave, go. So he has a sister who's Nigerian. He's here, and he has a sister who lives in Australia because they basically went to where they were. It can't just be about the color, because a Nigerian woman in Australia has no clue how I live as a Black woman in the United States. And I would even say a Northerner, right? Because we know there's a different culture below the Mason-Dixon line, and there is.
Well, Midwesterner, because there's a different culture everywhere in the United States.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. So when it's just like, let's stick this Indian woman in this picture, let's stick this Asian man in this picture, right? It can't just be about that. It has to. You have to understand where someone comes from culturally, if you choose to. Otherwise, the pictures and the images and all of that stock will begin to go back to being whitewashed, because it didn't come from any place. It didn't have any depth. It didn't have any weight, and you weren't diversifying based on people's culture, their background, their religion, their history. You were just trying to check a box.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily love the word diversity, because the word diversity itself does lend to these check mark scenarios. Okay, we got one of those, and I need two of these. Mm-hmm. Oh, and can someone get me a coffee, please? It's just like chick, 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 rather than looking at, it's not just color, it's culture. It's not just culture, it's identity. Yes. It's how do they stand in this space?
Yes.
Do they stand? Do they wheel? Do they crutch in? All these other places that we have to be considering when we're talking about what it is to be a society, multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-abled, multi, la, 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 la. But at the end of the day, the problem lies in our conversation, bringing it all back, is we can have all of those other boxes checked, all of these scenarios covered, but if the legal system doesn't keep up with it, and if the people that are running, that are in charge, United Colors, some of my favorite clothing of the 90s, Desiree, thank you. If the stewards...
Oh, because you're little. The
Benetton,
no,
I mean, I have to get everything altered.
No, the Benetton large was like this on me, and that was like the Benetton. I was like, nah, dude.
Listen,
nah.
Short people need something in this world.
You are so right.
Other than freaking bills for alterations, I still had to get them altered, but anyway, that's a different story. The point of the matter is, if the stewards of the law are like the Rittenhouse judge, if we have laws that are left vague enough so that they can be interpreted in a way that keeps people on the margins intentionally, then it doesn't win. I cannot. You know what, sissy? Damn you.
What you know about that sample size?
I'm not speaking to either one of you. I'm not. I'm getting a cup of water because you people are mean. Talk amongst yourselves.
It is. It can be like the United Colors of Benetton. I think that one of the things that I'm really loving right now is, which I have for a while, Dove. I do love Dove commercials. I think they've evolved. I think in the beginning, it, it was almost forced what Dove was doing. I think it was there, and I think that they saw a need to have diversity in their commercials, in their product spots, but it felt a little forced. But now I feel like they've gotten to like this really nice groove and rhythm. And I think that there are some products. Athleta has come a long way.
I think it's always going to look forced when it's new. And
Yeah,
I
agreed.
think because, you know, as much
Where
as
is that? Where did you get that water from? Do you have like a water fountain in your basement?
I have a little water cooler over there,
No,
next to my drink fridge.
I was like, you didn't go anywhere.
Well, you know, heaven forbid I burn a calorie by walking up and down the stairs too many times. But, you know, and this is the thing too that people need to recognize. And, you know, I talk about this in Beyond the Bullshit all the time because people are like, well, I don't want to look performative. Someone's always going to say you're performative when you first start, period. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to perform at some point. I mean, Jesus, I never have to go upstairs. It's true. My cats are here. My heater's here. It's all good. You know, one thing I love about Dove, which is so funny me saying this, because Dove is owned by Unilever. It's a division of Unilever, which is, you know, big bad corporation, blech. But they are one of the co-sponsors of the Crown Act. And that's a big deal to me. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Crown Act, Crown Act, how many states is it in now? 12. Only 12 states. Hear this, people. In 12 states in our lovely union, you are protected from being fired for wearing your hair the way it grows out of your head, as Nikki says. In the rest of the states in the union, the other 38, you can be fired if your boss does not like the fact that you're wearing braids or cornrows or a wig. So, needless to say, the locks, box,
a fro,
whatever, any of it. So, any company that supports the Crown Act is a company after my own heart because, well, I'm Black. And I think it's really, really important that, you know, in these body autonomy days, my body, my choice, people be allowed to wear their hair. Who else on this earth, in this country, has to have legislation written so that they can walk around, the way they were born? Nobody. And you've got Space Invaders behind you. So the point of the matter is, I don't understand. You have to perform. You have to perform to get people to start paying attention. You have, if you don't do that, if you don't bring attention and awareness to the fact that you have a child on your lap, and as fancy and stunning as he is,
let's go, baby.
If you don't pay attention to that, it's very easy for it to do what Nikki was saying, which is go back to the way it was.
Yes. And I think that takes, you know, I think a lot of what Misty and I say,
Desiree said, come through performance art. I didn't know that we were going to have entertainment. So that maybe next week they'll paint for us.
For the record, people, there is another parent here. There's like another full-fledged adult here.
But he's a man, so it's like the house is empty. Go ahead.
We have, I think, prided ourselves in having a space that is open and honest, but welcoming, for people to ask questions. Things are performative until they become comfortable. If you are not used to having conversations with Black, brown people, like real conversations, like, you know, when you say, what are collard greens? And why do you call them greens? because other vegetables are green too. So why are collards called greens? Or what are chitterlings? And then you say, no, they're not chitterlings, they're chitlins.
No, it's spelled chitterlings.
It is spelled chitterlings. So it is going to be performative, because it's the first day of school, right? The first day of school in the new school. It's performative because you don't know anybody. Why should it be any different when you're learning about someone's culture, when you're learning about their history, when you're learning about them? And so I think to run away from it, oh, I don't want to feel like I'm putting on a show. Well, then step forward with honesty. Step forward. What is your intention? Is your intention to learn about something different? Or is your intention to make sure your hair looks good, you got those brows? You know, what is your intention in that moment? It is going to be performative. And I think that I think that I knew that, just kind of inherently, but I think maybe some people need to hear that. Think about it as like the first day of school, right? Think back to the first day of middle school, people. Come on. It was performative. Think about all the
when you're in school, everything is
performative. So it's no different. It's learning that teacher. It's learning in that class. You're not going to be the teacher's pet, but in this class, you know you're the teacher's pet. You know, it's learning what you can get away with and what you can't get away with in you know, dance class, right? It's performative until it isn't. And then one day there's a moment in time where the seams kind of disintegrate and it's seamless. And then, but it's all about your intent. It's all about what you actually want to know about that person or about that culture or about that history. And when you just put your mask on and you just go, hey, Black Lives Matter, as long as I'm at the Starbucks serving my coffee, and then you whip that mask off and go hang out with the cream cheese sisters. That's performative.
You know, it is. And I just wonder how people like get through life that way. I mean, I've always kind of seeked out different people because I'm a person that really loves our differences. I just think it's great. And it really excites me to learn about a new culture. It excites me to learn about a new anything. I was reading about protein pathways. Well, this has been my study of the week. Ask Harmony. It's been a little bit mind-boggling. Don't ask. But anyway, I'm obsessed with it. But, you know, I want to know about it. And if I'm in a room with a bunch of doctors and I'm like, so, like, I just have this question about the mTOR protein pathway because, like, I just really think the way it works in the brain and the way it shuts down, you know, okay, I understand feeling maybe a little bit wonky about it. But if you want to learn and you want to get questions answered and you want to really understand the differences, because when you start to understand what differences are, then they don't feel so different. That's the cool thing about it. It's like anything else. Like when I started learning different styles of dance, well, other than hip hop, I regret to inform you, I am the entire rhythmless nation. I'm all of it. Not the cool, like the Janet Jackson rhythm nation. Rhythmless. So when I would have to take hip hop, because hip hop was just coming up like at the end of my high school business, I would be like, this shit sucks. Because I just couldn't do it. And then I was so resistant to it. And I was so resistant to it that I didn't even want to consider it a dance form. I was like, this is trash. This is not dance. This is a bunch of people hopping around on one foot to a bunch of people that are reading Dr. Seuss to a beat This is bullshit. Because I didn't want to take the time to understand it. I just knew that I sucked at it and I wanted to be removed from it because it wasn't dance enough for me. And then, I took the time and I got to know about it. Honestly, it's one of the few things that I was just like flat out, this is shit. But now that I know about it, now that I've seen the evolution of an animation, like who can say animation's not dance? If you don't know what it is, look it up. It is so badass. But, the fact that it's not formal and the fact that it didn't come from Europe, I can't even believe I just said it, but I mean it. High Serenity Wellness. It doesn't mean that it's not worth learning. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I do have respect for this. I do think that this is just of just as much quality as anything else. It's just different. And nobody gets beaten up with a ruler and burnt with a cigarette butt if they do it wrong. Yes. Jesus.
Well, and I think it just, when you decide to learn something, are you going to decide to learn it? Are you going to dive deep? If you stay on the surface, sorry, I have hiccups. There are all of those things that you miss.
It's learning about it versus dabbing enough into it to just talk your way through a party, as an example.
Or constantly, I was in a diversity and equity meeting.
Oh, no.
And
this never goes well.
No, I don't go to them anymore. I actually do not go to them anymore. But this woman kept saying, oh, this person's take on Harriet Tubman, and she was Indian. Yes, she's Indian. And she kept referring to her friend from, this is exactly what we're talking about. So this is an Indian woman talking about her friend from, what is the population? It's the largest population in Minnesota.
Somali.
Thank you. And the person that she was speaking about was Somali. And we were talking, she was saying, she has this thing about Harriet Tubman, and she has this really great interactive thing. And I literally was like, we are tired of hearing about Harriet Tubman.
And she was probably like, wah, wah, wah.
And I said, and not only that, I said, are you aware of the cultural differences between the Somali and Blacks in America?
This probably didn't go well.
And I said, and so these are things that happen. And it's like, when you lump everyone in the same category and you don't understand the cultural differences, it's like, you do not call a Dominican a Puerto Rican, and you do not call a Puerto Rican a Dominican. You better know the difference, because it is really insulting. But if you just look at them all as Latinos, you insult everything that comes before them, because they do know their history. And so when you choose to learn about, when you really make that decision, it's sort of like, for women, they say, like, when you decide you want to be pregnant, all of a sudden, everywhere you see, right? If you see, there's, everywhere you go, there's pregnant women. And then, of course, if you have, if you don't do it one time and get pregnant right away, the pregnant women multiply. And, it's like, and there are no more or no less pregnant women. You just are noticing them. And there's something that mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, you become pregnant even before the baby is conceived, right? It's the same thing with learning. And you have to kind of dive into it. You have to immerse yourself. And so be okay with being performative, because it doesn't mean you're wearing a clown suit. Nothing against clowns.
A lot
But
of clowns. So much against clowns.
but it doesn't, just because it may come across as performative doesn't mean that that's your intent. And it doesn't mean you're just wearing this big red nose and these big floppy shoes and this crazy wig. It doesn't mean that.
And that's
But
the thing too. If you're worried about somebody calling you performative, here's a news flash. Somebody probably is going to call you that. Somebody's going to say, well, why the hell do you all of a sudden give a shit about diversity? And meanwhile, maybe you always gave a shit about it. You just didn't name it. You know,
right.
nobody has the right to tell you who you are and why you're doing something.
Exactly.
And we should always, be giving ourselves that gut check. Clowns, exactly. Exactly. It's like people that want to proclaim themselves allies, and they come to me and they want to talk about it. I'm always like, you know what? That's something that you have to. Yeah, no, on allyship, I do believe that it's something like you just don't walk around wearing the t-shirt unless you're really in it. And I don't necessarily think that you are going to be the appropriate judge of if you're in it or not. Like over the summer, I posted a lot about pride because you all know pride's a big deal to me. And someone in the gay community that doesn't know me very well was like, oh, well, I mean, don't you think you're going a little bit too far here? Like, why are you posting so much about this? I'm like, honey cakes, you just don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know how I grew up. You don't know, or are you just trying to tell us something surreptitiously? Like, no, it's not about me trying to tell anybody. And this other friend I know who saw this go down was like, you are an ally. And I'm like, you know what? I appreciate hearing you say that, but I hope you're not just saying that because you feel like you need to hear it. And he's like, no, you absolutely are. And that made me feel good. But I know the reason why I support other communities.
Right.
And so it's not going to bother me when somebody is coming at me sideways telling me, I don't really know whatever it is, because I know what's in my heart. And if I'm doing it wrong, call me out for being wrong. Explain to me why I'm wrong. You can call me out if you want, I can take it. But if I screw up, I want to know. But if I'm not screwing up, if you're just not happy that I'm showing up because you didn't see me doing something that you've sanctioned as okay, well, I don't really have time for that. I'm going to continue to advocate for the people that I advocate for.
And I think a really good example, and she's always she's always on our radar. A really good example of that
is Heather Anderson.
Heather Anderson.
Heather Anderson.
Heather Anderson.
Did you see her post about the word adopt?
Yes. And I agree.
1,000%.
Because it doesn't go anywhere.
So our friend Heather Anderson started a conversation. She said she posted a meme that was like, don't adopt a soldier, don't adopt the resident homeless person, don't do this with the word adopt, and explaining that
there's singular occasions, singular they don't require the commitment that adoption.
Correct. It minimizes adoption. And she has 2 children that she adopted that she fights for like a freaking lion every single day. Like some days I read her posts and I'm like, woof, Heather's been out there fighting for everybody. I'm tired. I'm going to take a power nap in Heather's honor right now. But, and what Heather was saying is, words matter. And the way we frame words, it so matters. And this ding dong on her feed was like, well, if you look at the dictionary definition of adopt, this is what you're doing. So you really are adopting a soldier. I'm like, fuck! What is wrong with you? We can't just look at it from our own lens. You have to look at it as How is the person that's in this situation feeling about your use of that word? And does that matter to you? Oh, sissy, thank you. Those are the best summers.
Does it matter? And it was also a, I'm not going to even hear this from your perspective. I'm just going to put my cement boots on and
La 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 la
that's what my
la la.
cement boots are on. I will not move from this spot. And I think that's what it is. It's not even like, let me acknowledge where you stand. Let me acknowledge the position, and the position that is personal. She lives in that position, and sorry, Sally Struthers, because we just can't.
For just $1 a day, you can help a family of 75. Sally. Poor critter.
So it's that idea of, yes, Desiree, I believe that it is a lesson in language, because I think I would use the term adopt in terms of behavior, adopt this behavior. But even I think for me in adopting a behavior, it was looking for something, some type of a long-term change.
The term is support. Support a soldier, support.
Correct.
Right.
But when she wrote what she wrote, and given her backstory, her history, again, there we go. What are you willing to learn? How much are you willing to fill out that t-shirt? I read it and I was like, oh, yeah, that's totes makes sense. Totally get it. What a perspective, because that's a perspective that she's lived in. And the woman who commented literally was like, no, I'm not going to hear that.
Oh, and she said it in all caps, by the way. By the end, she was like, "Oh, I am mad. Do not tell me that I can't use the A word."
We have a new pantomime. I love it.
But you know what?
Clack, 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 clack. Sorry.
And if you're not friends with Heather, like we say it all the time, Heather Anderson, take a look at her stuff, because she always posts such insightful stuff. The other thing she posted, by the way, that was great was like, you don't have to deal with family bullshit over the holidays. But that's always a favorite subject. But circling back, Sally Struthers. No, this is serious. Don't make me laugh.
A cup of coffee.
Don't make me laugh. So Sally Struthers, though. Sally Struthers made this idea of, I'm doing something really big for the world, and I really have put forth no effort to do it. I mean, she really made this thing a thing. And so now we've got people co-opting this idea of adoption and running amok thing. You know, I'm great because I'm giving my money to a cause. I am an ally because I give my money to these causes, but they never have to get their hands dirty. They never have to. Donating money, I dare say, is not an action toward allyship. And
what about Girl Scout cookies?
That is an action towards self-loathing. Let me tell you, Girl Scout cookies, don't get me started. Do you know how much money those Girl Scouts got on those cookies? I'll tell you, because I was a Girl Scout and I had to sell like 2,000 effing boxes of cookies. And I think it was something like 27 cents. By the time I got out of high school, it was 19 cents when I was younger per box of extortion cookies.
I buy Girl Scout cookies for troops.
I would rather give the money directly to the troop, because the troops don't see very much of that money at all.
No, not the Girl Scout troops. Soldiers.
Oh, Girl Scouts give troops money?
You can buy cookies and they will send
Oh, sending the troops cookies. Okay, I missed that one. I mean, okay, so that's different. Again, I mean, I think troops deserve more than those shitty ass cookies, but I'm biased against Girl Scout cookies. So
I see.
I mean, I have issues with it.
I think the thing for me was,
yes, Desiree, you can fund a movement, and I still think though you can fund a movement, but it's got to be more than just sending a check. Because again, sending a check is what these big philanthropists do. And in the back alleys, they're not doing anything to support any of these causes that they say that they're supporting. You can send you can send a check and be very, very hands off. Hashtag, not Girl Guides, Girl Scouts. There's a difference.
He's Canadian. It's a Girl Guide.
I'm leaving. You people are mean.
Well, also, we know what's coming out about philanthropy as well. We know that philanthropy typically it is designed to keep the person or group or organization or thing exactly where it is.
100%.
It is not designed to move them forward, upward, outward, over, or so it is really designed to keep them. You need to stay out of my studio. Aries Miko, close my door. Close my door right now. Close my door.
Someone's going to need to give philanthropy to Aries in a minute.
But it is designed to keep people right where they are. I will fund this thing, but it is for you to stay right where you are. It is not to help you progress. And so philanthropy, it has to do with tax breaks.
100%.
It has to do with, well, we gave this money. And it is very directed. It is very directed in terms of when organizations oftentimes, or when groups say, this is what we need. This is how we can move forward.
Karen Ackman said, I sent checks to the band parents. It was because I wanted to be left alone. Much different than support.
No joke.
But it's true.
No joke.
It's true. Because those band parents, they'll stalk you. Just send a check and hide. I know.
These are, again, philanthropy is not about wanting to learn a culture. It is not about wanting to learn a people. It is not about, it is really it's a pat on the head.
It's a pat on the head
yeah.
and a shove out of the door.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pat on the head. And it's like, Pittsburgh is one of the largest cities that provide philanthropy dollars.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, and the other thing too is, having been a part of a nonprofit, and then each year you have to go through this, a nonprofit for kids. I can't say, I don't think I'm supposed to say it out loud. That's why I'm not intentionally being cryptic. Using dance to teach life skills. And since there's always going to be kids, and there are most likely always going to be kids who are underserved or don't have as much as other people, one could argue that the program needs to continue. But each year was this, okay, can we have the money? Okay, can we, you know what it is. You know what it is, because we've been doing it for 20 years. All of the hoop jumping, all of that is, it's the pat on the head. It's, oh, you should feel a certain way because we gave to you but not to them. And I understand, honestly, that donors have to make those choices. But at the end of the day, when you take a step back, philanthropy, we could not get those same donors to extend the program for 2 days during the week after school so that we could keep that connection, bring it around to the summer. And then it's in places where this works really, really well. Kids end up being, they have a year-round program, 2 days a week. They end up getting, some kids end up getting scholarships into a dance company. Some kids would come back when they would age out, they would come back and get a job as a group leader. And it would be like this really beautiful cycle. So if you say you want to fund because you feel like this is important, you start to see where that becomes less important, and it's just, I get to stamp my name. We gave money to this organization.
Right.
And so that's, yeah, philanthropy is really, really, as I've begun to see it, is really about keeping people exactly where they are.
Yeah. Martin said social enterprise. What about when philanthropy money is directed toward this, i.e. nonprofit organizations starting a business like a coffee shop to increase sustainability? I think that's slightly different from what we're talking about. So you're saying that the nonprofit itself is starting a coffee shop. They have this goal of sustainability. Is if their only method of getting to sustainability is funding this coffee shop, and they're not doing anything else, any other type of outreach or whatever it is, then really it's not philanthropy in a way that's going to be able to help
right
advance their goal. It's really just going to be a way to run a coffee shop. Karen says, large foundations are about remaking the world to further the values of the donors, not so much about the real needs. And that's the thing. When a huge company like, Apple or Google or whomever donates money toward, well, I mean, look at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I mean, they've done a whole lot of good things, but I tend to think that a good number of their good things are kind of, shall we say, distractionary from some of the other things that they do are fairly shady. Okay.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the foundation specifically gave to him, but yes, in bigger terms.
Affiliation.
What?
Affiliation
is huge. But again, and then Sissy says, yes, dance for your supper. Absolutely. And Desiree, oh my gosh, Desiree has been working for nonprofits for a long, long time. And, when you look at people that work for nonprofits is a perfect example. People that work for nonprofits they give so much time and effort and energy running. I mean, the people in the trenches, not the people at the top. They very often aren't paid very well. They very often are working multiple jobs, actually. And again, when we're talking about a nonprofit, I feel like we should be looking at ways to make sure that the people that are funding this nonprofit aren't being exploited in themselves. People are working. I think that we need to rethink what that is, what that looks like, what the idea of philanthropy really means. Dirty money is dirty money, says Sissy, and I think that there's something to be said for that.
You know me, it all comes back to community. It all comes back to, global citizenry. But who do you want to be? How do you want to interact with the people, as you continue to ripple out? What mark do you want to leave on this earth? And we have to look at that. We have to look at the community of not just our families, but the people. I mean, this is a community. ThoughtFlow has become this amazing, incredible community. And I mean, and it's awesome, and you guys bring humor and insight and questions and comments, and it's
Oh, damn. Desiree says nonprofit workers work harder than the Hebrew Israelite slaves. I mean, there's a lot to that, actually. Yeah. Ooh, yes. Thank you, Sissy. I hate that word, nonprofit. UPMC is nonprofit monopoly. UPMC is the local, it's the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. So note the words medical center, note the words University of Pittsburgh. They're huge. They own so much real estate. They own so much everything. They pay no taxes.
Yeah.
Zero. No real estate taxes, no taxes. They are a juggernaut. They are fighting with the other local insurance company. They have caused patients harm in many of their practices of not allowing for fair competition. But, hey, they're a nonprofit, so they must be great. Like, we have to reimagine what it means to be a nonprofit and what that means to the community. Because the fact is, the community itself would do a lot better if UPMC paid taxes on the large swaths of land that they own.
And, again, it's one of those things. So you keep pulling from the barrel from all sides. Taxes. I said this about Finland. You want things to be a certain way. We know that when you go to Finland, you go into a machine and you want to buy a drink or something, it comes in a glass jar. You pay more, and at the end of your consumption of that beverage, the machine sucks it back up and gives you back your deposit. There are no large stores to go grocery shopping in Finland. You have to go every 2 or 3 days.
In most countries.
You have to go to market because you're going to prepare a meal. And these are things that
Robin,
not only... Bye, Robin. These are things that they're not only good for the environment, they promote community. You have to have a conversation with someone in a market if you are planning a meal and, hey, are you going to have some red snapper on Friday? Because I got a dinner. Okay, well, let me send my guy out. It makes you aware and accountable in a way that Coke products can feel comfortable saying, we're not going to get rid of plastic because our consumers like our plastic bottles. Being in a place like Finland and having the government just say, no, this is what is good and true and honest, and this serves us all.
I mean, what government never get away with that?
What serves us all?
Nope.
And that is how I like to move forward in life. And I don't always hit that mark. I mean, sometimes it is hard. But I like to at least say what serves, what is the most that I can serve in this moment. And I think that has just become a thing where people don't have to have a sense of community. They don't have to have a sense of accountability. I don't think that everyone is just mean and like, rah, rah, rah. There's just this pattern of people like, make sure you got yours, make sure you got yours. And then we just keep ingraining that into, exactly. That's exactly it. I'm not going to do it because I don't need to do it because I don't believe it. It's hogwash. There is no science. Who can I affect the most right now in the most positive way? So that I'm always going to go back to community. I'm always going to come back to that. I'm always going to come back to, Did you smile at someone today? Did you do a good deed today? Did you make a good choice today? Did you make 2 good choices? Did you make 10 good choices? You know, it doesn't mean you're not going to it doesn't mean you can't make a bad choice, but community.
Mm-hmm. The thing about community, when you take a look at our society now and you look at how far apart we've grown, I mean, it's not really a surprise when you consider the fact that we don't have to interact.
Mm-mm.
We don't know our neighbors. We don't have those moments where we just are kind of stuck in a situation where we have to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think this is why people have become feral. I mean, if you look at what's happened as a result of the never-ending pandemic, you can order your groceries online and have them popped into your trunk or dropped off at your house. Same with a lot of other things. You might go out and get gas once every couple of weeks, maybe. So then when you're in a higher stress, pressure situation, you don't know how to act, and you're bashing flight attendants over the head with luggage, and you know, your most basal instincts have come to the surface because you don't have the same value of people, the people that
Yep.
are surrounding us, that you may have had 2 years ago. Or maybe, you know what, maybe you were always feral, but you had a better choke chain on yourself than before, whatever it is. But you know, this whole community idea, and we talk about this every week too, because it really is a thing. When you see people as people, when you see their individual traits, when you get to know them for who they are and for who they are not,
Yep.
we're much, much better able to understand then.
Dang.
Pew, 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 pew. You're much
We didn't
better.
even know that was a thing.
I had no idea. I was like, oh, I need to write that down. But yeah, we are able to then look at people and say, you know what? Don't treat me as if, what is it? It's called, somebody said it today. She called it rather than the platinum rule, she called it rather than the golden rule, she called it the platinum rule. And what it is golden rules: do unto others as you wish to be done upon yourself, or whatever. But she says that the platinum rule is do unto others as they would like for you to do unto them, which requires a little bit of speculation. But nobody wants to be bashed over the head with a suitcase. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to assume that that's not really what we call congenial behavior.
Right.
But most people, if you're going to acknowledge them, want to be acknowledged in a way that makes them feel like they're human.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really isn't that hard if we're not feral.
Yeah, I agree. The immediacy. I don't have to make contact. And when I do make contact, I'm important. I'm number one. And, you know, I stand in stores and laugh at people because the absurdity of their impulsivity at times, it's just laughable. You can see everything that every freaking store on planet Earth, or at least in this country, is hiring. If everybody has a now hiring sign, and you go in the store and there's only 2 people working in the store,
then don't be surprised that the line is wrapped out to the parking lot. You actually went in there? You didn't know it was going to happen? Okay, so sidebar. I walked into the You Break, I Fix store.
Sidebar.
2 days ago, which, I mean, it is the hell that it sounds. I walked in and I looked I looked over, and this is the way, I mean, everybody is in the chairs like this. And there was one lady laying on the floor. And I was like, Jesus,
Is it
Jesus. I said, have you guys been here for a long time? And the guy that was clearly in the biker gang said, yes. And then the lady on the floor said, don't give them your phone. You'll never get out of here. And do you know what I did? I didn't say, well, I'm here now, so you got to take me. You know what I said? I said, thanks for the information. And I just moonwalked right out of there. Do you know why? Because I read the room, and I was like, I'm not going to get out of here before my next birthday, which is in July. So I left. I'm not exceptional. I'm not fabulous. I left because I didn't want to be in that situation. Right. If we all did a better job of reading the situations, we can better handle our disappointment or our joy or whatever it is. But we don't do that. We have some sort of distorted notion that we're important for some reason. Nobody's more important than the next guy.
And that we can't just, you know, I used to have to say to people, I have a skill set, and it is something that I offer to the public, but I am not here to service you. I provide a service, but I am not here to service you. And that, I think, almost, what is the phrase for the people who can't stop working? Essential. I think that has this really negative serf-like connotation.
What, the people are essential?
Essential workers.
I think it's wordsmithery at its worst.
Yeah, I think it, and so, you know, like Harmony is writing about the gas station, and it's like, imagine someone just being like, I'm done. And I'm leaving in the middle of my shift. I'm going to put a sign on the door that says, you guys act so foul that I'm just done. Again, humanity.
100%.
Coming together as a community. And then, you know, it is all, yeah, we're leaving soon, guys. We see the clock. It is all about watching people. It's not just the people in the big box stores who act like they don't have to wait in that long ass line when they go to the Costco at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Yeah. Like there isn't going to be a line. But it's also, there's no humanity in someone like Kyle Rittenhouse thinking that he is well within his rights to do what he did and to be okay with it. You're 18 years old and 17. You have killed 17?
He was 17.
He was 17 years old and killed 2 people. You should not even want that on your resume as a 17-year-old. You're 17 years old and you've killed 2 people.
Well, and Matt Gaetz wants to give him an internship. So.
And then you have these 2 hillbillies. We are constantly being bombarded with people who either don't want community or want their warped sense of, they want to be the definition of the community. This is what the community looks like. But it's about humanity. And so that's what you are charged with. What does humanity mean to you? Are there exclusions? Are there inclusions to your humanity? Are there steps? Are there you know, levels that people have to reach? I you know, ask that question to yourself. How are you blocking? Because I think we all do it.
I think we all have a tendency to create, it's back to the word, the H word, hierarchies in our
Yes.
minds. But I think that's just normal and natural. It's how do we manage those stratifications that we create. I mean, I might look at somebody and I might be like, I really hate this person. I would back over them with my car if I could. But you know what? I don't back over them with my car. I don't. And I still try my best to treat them with respect.
You don't run after them with your shotgun?
Listen, there was a day in my
and your
life
Jimmy Choos
where I was maybe a little bit more high strung than I am today.
Answer me! Answer me!
I mean, I may have thrown CDs out of my sunroof at bad drivers. I may have been that girl for a minute. And, you know, it's true. Listen, I was given many, many, many gifts. Patience was not one of them. And I struggle with it to this day. It's my Achilles heel for sure. But as I'm getting older, one, I'm too damn tired to chase anybody in my Jimmy Choos or any other shoes. Too damn tired. But two, I also look at it as my day may be a shit sandwich, but their day may be worse. So why am I going to do that to them? I have a responsibility to at least be respectful.
Yeah.
And even on a day where I don't feel like being kind, and I don't run, only when chased. I'm not mooning people these days. Nobody wants to see all that. You know, I think with age comes maturity. We should be getting better, not worse. I personally feel like I'm getting better. I feel like society in general is getting worse. So I mean, that's just the way I see it. I try to surround myself with people that are doing better as well. I love these calls, these chats, because we've had people all night commenting, and it makes me happy because it makes me feel like it's not so lonely out here trying to do the best thing that I can do in my
Agreed.
So
we are amongst like-minded people.
Yeah, we are. I'm gonna go like-mindedly make an apple crisp.
Ooh.
Oh, I can't wait. I had like all these big giant Jana Gold apples that I got from the apple orchard, and I chopped them up, and I was too tired, so I went to bed. So, but today I'm making, and it's gonna be good. And I'm gonna.
And part two.
I know, right? So, everybody, thank you for being here with us tonight. Next week is Thanksgiving. No Thursday, of course. But there could be a Friday. We'll let you know. No, I didn't make it, Harmony. I've been making it all week, but it's not really happened yet. No pie, because then I have to make the crust, because I can't get store crust, because store crust always has soy in it, and then it's a whole damn problem. And then,
send me that recipe, Misty.
I will. I think it's from New York Times Cooking. Because
is it gluten-free?
I mean, no. But well,
but if you send me the recipe,
actually,
if that's
now
what
I
was
think about it, there's not a whole lot of flour in it. Oats are always questionable with gluten-free, though. Everything I've read.
But I buy dedicated gluten-free oats.
Okay, if you can trust your oats, then you're okay. Everything I've read about oats says don't trust gluten-free oats. But if you have a source, then then you can do that. So yeah, I'll send you the recipe.
Yes, thank you. And while we just kibitz at the end of
yeah, you know, anybody have any recipes they'd like to talk about? No, just kidding. Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you, Karen, for watching. Katie, sorry you just got here, but you can always watch the replay.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Des. And everybody, if we don't see you next week, lovely. If we don't talk to you next week, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Nikki's going to sing us off. We're going to be closing with a song tonight.
Happy Turkey Day, guys, or however you celebrate it. My children have interpreted something else. Happy next Thursday.
Happy next Thursday.
Enjoy your communities.
Don't get smallpox. And we will see you potentially next Friday.
Next Friday, yeah, for sure.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.